Hey guys, Wrestling Throwdown here. I'm Haley, and I'm going to be talking about TNA from last night. Oh, sorry, it's been a long day. I just got back from night class. All right. Anyways, okay. So TNA last night, it was I don't want to say it was bad. It was just, it had a few good segments, but obviously it got a couple of stuff. Obviously, the feud starting to come, like Gunnar and Shaw, that obviously progressed. And obviously, it's got the tag team match all set up. So it's obviously got a couple of stuff. And then it might have, not really a face turn, but like a separation from, MVP and Kenny King and away from Bobby Lashley. So that obviously happened too. So it had its moments. But it's actually funny. I actually am more excited for obviously NXT than I have to watch tonight too, and SmackDown, because I am going to be doing those separate too, just to let you guys know. But I'll talk more about that after. Alrighty, so TNA. Kurt Angle comes out first, and he starts talking about how they got a new tag team champion, obviously Bobby Roode, and then Bobby Roode comes out. And then Lashley, MVP, and Kenny King come out, so it's all just like a huge kind of thing in the ring. And MVP pretty much says that he's a sorry excuse for a competitor. And he starts, attacking him and saying that he wants him to defend his title against him. And so obviously MVP versus Bobby Roode is made. It's really funny though, because you could see the looks that Lashley was giving MVP when he was talking about saying, you should beat me for that title. And obviously Lashley did not like that idea. Lashley obviously wants to be the number one contender because technically he has his rematch clause. Like everyone does when they lose the title, they always get a rematch, no questions asked. And so he obviously did not like that. Obviously, they're setting up. I wouldn't really say it was a face turn what happens tonight, but obviously they're setting up the separation from that, because obviously if he's going to be still feuding with Bobby Roode, either Bobby Roode needs to turn heel, and I wouldn't like that. I think Bobby Roode needs to turn. I like Bobby Roode better as a heel, but I always say there's just something about me that I always like to see different title reigns. Like, if you have one as a heel, I'd like to see you have a title reign as a face. And that's kind of like Seth Rollins too, for example. Like, since he's going to have his first title reign is going to be a heel, I want to obviously see him have a face run too. Even though I think he obviously does better promos and talks better when he's a heel, I still want to see a face turn. And I know, some people might think that's weird. It's just, I don't know. I kind of like it because then they can, feud with different people. And it's interesting like that. I don't know. It's just, they can get more creative with it, and they can obviously have different promos, and just, it's going to be an overall different experience when they hold the title when they're a heel and when they hold the title when they're a face. But, yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to do, because obviously with MVP and Bobby Lashley obviously separating from each other, it sounds like I'm saying like they're married or something and they're getting a divorce. All right, but one of them, obviously, Bobby Roode has to, or Bobby Lashley has to turn face, and then Bobby Roode has to turn heel. It would be awesome if we could just have a face versus face match, and then obviously Bobby Roode can feud with MVP after the whole Bobby Lashley thing's done. But, there's a couple of different things that they can go with this. I don't really like MVP fighting for the title. I'd rather have EC3 fight Bobby Roode, obviously, feud with him, but I think they're going to have him feud with MVP first and give Bobby Roode a nice title reign before he's about ready to lose, obviously, to EC3. But we will see. But I actually think EC3 is going to get his undefeated streak is going to obviously end soon, and I'll talk more about that later during his segment. But Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I still think that EC3 would obviously be a great choice for if they're planning it ahead of time to beat Bobby Roode for the title. Alrighty. The Hardy Boys versus Loki and Samoa Joe. I know Paul Jaser, I was actually talking to him about Loki, and I always said that I didn't like any four of these guys, but he was talking to me and he was pretty much saying that he's a huge fan of Loki, and he thinks, you know, obviously he thinks he's one of the greatest wrestlers right now in the world. And I really haven't seen too much of Loki to obviously make that diagnose or assumption, because I mean, he's obviously, I don't think he's horrible or anything like that. I do think he's good, but I mean, from just seeing what he's obviously with TNA and WWE, I feel like they could obviously definitely do way more with him if he is so-called this amazing wrestler that, you know, people are talking about. I might have to do some research on him, though, because people are saying, and it wasn't just, you know, Paul that said that, my friend Paul that said that, it was a couple of people that obviously said that Loki was obviously great. So I'll have to check that out. But the Hardys won, and this was obviously the tag team, the end of the tag team title tournament for the #1 contender. So obviously it's going to be the Hardy Boys versus, or if you just want to call them the Hardys, I guess, because they're not really supposed to be called the Hardy Boys because it's obviously TNA. That was more of a WWE name. But the Hardys are going to face obviously Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards for the titles. I think it's next week too that's going to happen. But like I said, I mean, low-key, I don't see what the big deal about him is. And that's the same thing too with Kenny King too. You know, they were kind of he was comparing, you know, Kenny King to with Loki, and like I guess he said something like, he was talking to me and him were talking about it, and he said that I guess someone said that Kenny King was better than Loki, and he said that, you know, that was garbage and that was full of crap and everything like that. And I said I don't like either of them. I don't like Kenny King or Loki. And I actually don't like any four of these. I don't like Matt Hardy. I don't like Jeff Hardy. I don't like Loki, and I don't like Samoa Joe. So there's quite a bit of TNA wrestlers that I really actually don't like, but there's a lot of them I do like. So it's interesting. It's mostly like the X division is what I don't really like. The wrestlers in the X division, that's mostly what I don't like. Like I usually like the main eventers, and I like the people who are obviously not used right. But for TNA, but yeah, it's mostly the X division because they totally messed up, and I've already talked about this too before. But the X division, they messed up without you know, with Chris Sabin not being there, and obviously Alex Shelley getting rid of him. I mean, they just, two great guys. I mean, and I'm sure there's more I can name that I'm not thinking of right now, but those are two, obviously, right off the bat, that were two of my favorites that obviously I thought made the X division. And Zema Ion, I really like too, and look at what they did with him. They completely, I mean, now he's DJ Ion, and he's, you know, made into like this comedy gimmick kind of like Jobber thing, and it's just bad. It's just bad. But yeah, Hardy's won. Alrighty. Samuel Shaw and Brittany come out, and obviously they talk about how they turned their back on Gunnar last week. And Brittany tells him that Gunnar was never his friend, and that Christy Hemme can't do what I can do for you. You know, she never cared about you, and I can, you know, they can't see your artistic side like I can, pretty much. And so they start, you know, making out. Oh, God, that was just too much. And Gunnar interrupts, and he pretty much says crazy attracts crazy. And he texts Shaw, and Brittany jumps on Gunnar, and then that obviously allows Samuel Shaw to low blow him. And then Brittany hands him his gloves, and he puts his gloves back on and then chokes Gunnar out. And that's pretty much that. And then they go back to obviously making out again. So I think this is interesting kind of couple, I guess you can say. I still wish they would have put him. I still think it would have been better if they would have put like turned Christy Hemme heel and had them together, you know, but I mean, obviously, I mean, Brittany's new character now that she's heel and everything. You know, first, obviously, she was kind of like this shy, quiet girl that everyone like was like, oh, you know, she's a Mickie James lookalike. And then they turned that into, obviously, oh, she's doing this whole lesbian angle line with, you know, Madison Rayne. And then now she's like this crazy girl who's obsessed with Samuel Shaw. And now she's obviously with Samuel Shaw. So Brittany, she's had a lot of character developments in the past. I don't know. How long has she been with TNA now? A year, maybe? I don't even think it's been that long. I don't know. Maybe it has been. But obviously, like, we've kind of seen her drift away. Like, she was kind of relevant at first, and then we didn't see her. And then they kind of obviously, right after, you know, she turned heel, she kind of like disappeared. And then all of a sudden now she's with Samuel Shaw. She's obsessed with him. And obviously now they're a couple. So it's interesting, you know. But I do think her character is definitely better as a heel. I think it's kind of got more personality to it. And I feel like she can do a lot more. And I feel that's probably like the same. I can probably say the same for all heels. You know, you can do a lot more as a heel than as a face, and that's why I would personally be a heel. But for Brittany, it works out better because not everybody is good at being a heel, and not everybody is good at being a face. You know, it's different. You know, it's just kind of what you're comfortable with, I guess. But you can tell Brittany is comfortable with this role. I felt like the whole lesbian face thing with Madison Rayne it wasn't good. It just wasn't her. And now that she, you know, can obviously show her character and her more of her personality now, I feel like it's a good thing. I feel like she's actually making it work. And I think she's going to be successful. I actually like her and Shaw together. But like I said, I do kind of wish that they kind of would have left Shaw's character alone. They kind of just made it a mess. But now maybe it can get back, obviously, on track now that he is a heel again. And he's choking people out, obviously. I love that move, too, the whole chokehold. It's a good move. Alrighty. Bram and Magnus versus Tommy Dreamer and Devon. And Tommy Dreamer and Devon won. Obviously, just a whole Bram kind of feuding, obviously, with the whole hardcore historical legends, I guess if you want to call them. The thing with Bram, though, is I guess you can call this his first loss, but I mean, you obviously want to. I don't call it a loss unless it's single and unless they get pinned. So Bram is still undefeated in my books, but Bram has just been like on top so far. He's one of my favorites. I hope they do something with him. It would be actually nice to give him a title. Give him and Magnus the tag team titles. I actually think that would be a really good tag team. You know, because I really like Magnus too, and they messed up on Magnus too. So, you know, why not? I thought it was kind of ridiculous that they let Tommy Dreamer and Devon win though, because it's just like, what's the point? I mean, even though I do like, you know, both of them, it's just kind of like, you know, they're up in age. It's not like, you know, they don't have anything more to really prove. It's just like, let the younger talent shine. So I thought the whole them winning just didn't make sense to me. I really wasn't a fan of it. I felt like it was kind of stupid booking in my book, but you know, TNA, like I said, TNA has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. So there's that. But yeah, I actually would really like Bram and Magnus to be tag team champions. I think they can be great. Rockstar Spud comes out. We haven't seen him in a few weeks. He pretty much talks about how he did stuff that he wasn't proud of. It actually, his promo actually kind of sounded like Ryback's interview at first. You know how Ryback, I don't know if any of you've seen that, but Ryback obviously almost looks like he was in tears, obviously. And he was pretty much saying, you know, like, oh, I didn't like who I was and everything. And I was just a really bad person and everything like that. And I thought, obviously, that had to do a little bit with the Twitter thing. This was more, Ryback was more, I felt like, personal in his, like, personal, obviously self outside of the ring, you know, and this was obviously more in character, but just kind of sounded like that. And he said he would have done anything for EC3 and Dixie. And he said, well, now, obviously, that's not the case. And he calls him a wanker and says he doesn't need him. And obviously, he's his own person now. And EC3 comes out and he calls him a loser. And he pretty much says, you owe your whole career, you owe your whole everything that you've achieved in this, your whole talent and everything you owe to me. And he said, I'm going to do you a favor right now. If you apologize to me, you know, this can all be over and everything like that. And obviously, Spud doesn't apologize. And so then he gets, obviously, Tyrus. Yeah, that's his name now, Tyrus. Tyrus obviously holds Spud back. And Spud obviously says he's sorry for, he says he's sorry that he's a douchebag. And so EC3 attacks him. And, then he obviously, it was so funny. He was trying to kick them both. It was really funny. Spud's just so, I think Spud is only like, what, 5 foot? I think he's shorter than AJ, actually. AJ Lee, I think he's like 5 foot. I don't know. I know he's short. I know he's really, really short. I think he's like 5'5", to tell you the truth. I'm dead serious. I'm not even joking. And obviously Eric Young saves him. Eric Young, why? Does anyone else want to make sense of this? Maybe I can talk about this in our group, you know, after this. Does anyone want to make any sense about the whole Eric Young getting involved with this whole storyline? Like, I mean, I could see if Bully Ray got involved because obviously with the whole Dixie thing and, you know, I could see that, but like Eric Young, the only reason why I think that he's getting involved is because creative does not have anything else for him at the moment. And it's sad. It really is, because I do like Eric Young and I think he's a good wrestler, but they obviously probably knew that he wasn't a main eventer. And, you know, and I know there's obviously different opinions on that. I don't think he's a main eventer, but I know some people do think he's a main eventer. I mean, let's be honest here. The only reason why he did win, it was because of Daniel Bryan. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. And I feel like he would have never won it if it wasn't for Daniel Bryan. And I mean, the reign was like so short and it was just so pointless. It was a joke. And so now they're just kind of like putting him into the storyline and just trying to make it look, you know, like he's going to be, you know, Spud's best friend and everything like that. I don't even know. It's just ridiculous. But I do think Spud is going to be the one to beat EC3's undefeated streak. I really do. I think that that's what they're setting up for. And obviously it's going to be a shocker, you know, because it's going to prove obviously that Spud, you know, the lightweight, the one that's obviously, you know, the underdog is going to beat someone has been undefeated for over a year now. So I think it makes sense, because who else are you going to have, you know, beat him? I feel like it would be really cool to let Spud do that. And yeah, I actually would not mind Spud, you know. And I know there's probably different opinions on that. Probably some people are probably going to be really pissed and think it's a joke. But I mean, I like Spud. I think he's a good character. And I mean, it's not going to hurt EC3. It really isn't. It's kind of like Heath Slater beating Seth Rollins. Did that really hurt Seth Rollins? No. It was really good for Heath Slater until they obviously screwed it up. I mean, it could have been a push. Obviously, he got a nice pop and everything, but they messed that up with Heath Slater. But that's kind of how I see right now. It's not going to hurt EC3 if Spud wins. It's just going to help Spud, and that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, we will see what happens with that. I don't know about the whole Eric Young. Unless they plan on having Eric Young turn heel after all this and have Eric Young maybe like you know, turn his back on Spud. I mean, that's a possibility that they could do. I'm not really sure if they're going to do that, but it's different. It's interesting, I guess. Alrighty, Gail Kim versus Havoc, and this was just for a rematch for the Knockouts title, and Havoc obviously ended up winning. And Gail Kim obviously was still not 100%, so maybe she'll win it back down the line. There's really nothing much to say about this. I think their feud's probably going to end for right now. I mean, even though she hasn't been 100%, she's had like what? This is her third or fourth match with her for the title. So rematch. So I feel like this feud is possibly done now. But I mean, who else are you going to have to face Havoc? I mean, like I said, ODB. I would really like ODB to win, but that's just my opinion. I don't even know where ODB is at right now, to tell you the truth. I know she's still on the roster, though. I do know that was a lie, that someone told me that she got released, and she's not released. She is still on the roster because she was doing that calendar stuff. I think it was in August, I think it was, or something like that, or July, with the bathing suit thing. Yeah, she was in there, so, and she was doing pictures and stuff, so obviously she's not released. She's just doing stuff backstage, and that's where Brooke was too. Obviously, Brooke's still back there too. She's not released either. Alrighty, MVP versus Bobby Roode. This was the main event. Bobby Roode obviously won, and then Bobby Lashley comes in and spares him. And then MVP obviously asked for help, and then Bobby Lashley just walks away and leaves the ring. So obviously they are setting up for something with MVP, maybe an MVP versus Bobby Lashley feud. And so I do see that Bobby Lashley is going to turn face in this process. I don't know when, because obviously he's still going to have his rematch, and I don't think they're going to turn Bobby Roode heel or anything like that. I mean, they could have a face versus face match. I don't know why they don't do these either. It's just like they can't. And TNA is better at this than WWE with doing the face versus face and heel versus heel matches, but not too much. They try to stay away from it too, and I don't get that. Like, if I was in charge and if I was doing creative booking and everything like that, it's just like I would make, if it was something like I wanted to see, I would have a face versus face match. If I knew people wanted to obviously see it, I would have a face versus face match or a heel versus heel match. For example, like John Cena versus Daniel Bryan, they were both faces, and obviously that was a great match, and they were both faces, and obviously they had a face versus face match for the title at SummerSlam. And same with CM Punk and John Cena. They were both faces. Great match, and so I don't know. I mean, I know it's just kind of like, it seems like it always has to involve John Cena too when they do that. I'm not a John Cena hater. Obviously, you guys know that. You guys know I like John Cena, but it's just funny that those kinds of matches, when WWE does them, it always involves John Cena. It's just kind of funny. But yeah, I do think they need to get better at that. I do think that it wouldn't kill them to have Bobby Lashley versus Bobby Roode both being faces in the process, or even having, Bobby Lashley still being heel and then MVP turning on him or something like that, and then Bobby Lashley turning face, and then obviously having his feud with MVP, and then Bobby Roode maybe can feud with someone else. I don't think he's going to feud with EC3 right now, though. Obviously, I think it's going to be at least a couple months later down the road, because obviously EC3 is feuding with Spud right now. And then obviously Bobby Roode's got, MVP, Bobby Lashley, and who knows, maybe even Kenny King they might throw in there. So that is that. I will be doing I almost said EC3. NXT and SmackDown separate this week. There was a very interesting heel turn. I'm not going to tell you who. I mean, I read spoilers, and that's why I read spoilers too for SmackDown, because I need to know if I'm going to combine NXT or if with NXT, or if I'm going to, make them separate. And I also am going to make them separate, obviously, because of Finn Balor, aka Prince Deviant. He's making his debut, obviously, in NXT tonight, which I need to watch. So there's that too. So I was already kind of really planning on doing NXT alone anyways, whether it was SmackDown. But SmackDown actually sounded good with that interesting heel turn that probably people don't really care about. I cared about it, though. I thought it was interesting. And I know Christian interviewed Dean Ambrose, so that should be good. Something else happened that was interesting too, but it did sound good. And then I heard the steel cage match was great with the Usos and Goldust and Stardust. So it sounded like a really good show. So I'm definitely gonna watch SmackDown and do it separate this week and NXT separate. So I think you guys will like that. And if for the extra stuff, if I have anything or if anything I want to talk about, I don't know if I want to talk about anything right now. I have to look on my website and see if anything big's happening. But I might just throw it into NXT or something like that. Throw it into a segment that relates to it or something like that. I'll fit it in somewhere. But I will be doing NXT review tomorrow, and then I'll do the SmackDown Saturday. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I feel like it was a little bit short, but I mean, it was plain and simple, you know. All right. If you guys liked this video, thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe on Twitter follow us on Twitter, subscribe, and join our Facebook group on Facebook, obviously, and I will put all the links in the description. God, I can't talk today. Seriously, I need to go to bed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thanks for all the support. We got 20 subscribers now. We're getting there, slowly but surely. All right, thanks so much, guys. Bye.